What is going on, guys? This is the Empowered People Podcast, where each and every week we tell, share, and listen to stories that are meant to motivate us to action.
If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to rely on people to help you.
I've always been able to surround myself with people that are way better than me.
Whatever you choose to do, you can make it happen, regardless of, whatever stereotypical roles are. If you want to go do something, go do it.
And so when I quit, it's in my mind. I'm starting a company. I'm starting a for-profit company with a nonprofit heartbeat that's going to answer the question, what if a company cares more about people and less about profit? What is going on, guys? This is the Empowered People Podcast, Tuesday Tune-Up, where you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to come at you with a short story with some strong advice. I'm your host, Josh Levin, and if you are watching this, well, first off, if you're listening to this in audio form, I want to say a special thank you to the Ride or Dies. Ride or Dies? I heard that once. I don't even know what it means. Rough Riders, DMX, you know. But the people that have been listening since day one, episode one, I think it was Motivation and Expectations. Dude, there were like 17 audio cuts. There were so many different sound levels. It was horrible, but we were getting started, man. And like we said in the early episodes, and we say even now, my kids can say it with me, that we believe that so much success, opportunity, education only comes when you're willing to get up and move. And we hope that these 218 episodes have really helped each and every one of you believe in yourself a little more, maybe take some risks, take some jumps, take some leaps of faith, and pursue a dream. Maybe it was a promotion, maybe it was starting a company, maybe it was getting married. What's up? But whatever it was, man, you have taken action in your life, that you have decided that you were no longer going to be a passive participant in your life. And you thank this podcast, man. You guys direct message me, you leave 5-star ratings, you leave reviews. There's so many things that I'm so thankful for the listeners of this podcast that have shown love and support and all those kinds of things. But today is a very big day because we have been trying over and over and over again. I'm talking Marshawn Lynch beast mode over and over and over again to get video up. A lot of people have hit us up and said, hey man, why aren't you on YouTube? Why aren't you recording the video? Because it's hard. Okay, let's just be real. It's hard and I'm dumb. Okay, I say it over and over again. I can't spell electrician, guys. It's hard, but I think we've got a good solution. I think we've gotten the right software, the right programs, the right equipment. So if you are now watching this on YouTube, or if you are not, go to YouTube. The Empowered People is on YouTube. It is a podcast channel. We'll be dropping these videos and little snippets and nuggets of motivational things that we learn in a very blue collar, hands-on, get your hands dirty kind of way. Okay, this isn't theoretical. This isn't a freaking Harvard business class where I'm going to tell you the 15 steps that you need to know before you license your LLC. Okay, we're not talking about that. We're talking about what it's like to actually start, to scale, and to succeed. Why? Because that's what we've done for the last 6 years. March 15th, we'll be celebrating our 6-year anniversary. Empowered Electric is 6 years old. We've done over $30 million. We employ over 50 people. We made Ingram's magazine not once, but twice. We made freaking Inc. magazines not once, but twice. Just got nominated for Next Gen Leader in Kansas City. Just got nominated for Ingram's Top 40 and 40. Like, there's a lot of stuff happening. And I know that sounds braggy, but it seems like the only time people listen is when you tell them, hey, listen to me. And I'm not going to take a picture in front of a freaking Ferrari. I'm not going to take a picture in front of a jet. I just saw on social media like Lil Bow Wow. I think he just goes by Bow Wow now. Took a picture in front of a private jet and then like got on American Airlines coach. And it's like, poor Bow Wow, dude. Listen, I loved him, right? I can't remember the song right now. But it was good. It was good. But I'm not going to do that. Anything that I tell you, it's not a flex. It's facts. And I know from the bottom of my heart that you are able to achieve wildly more than what you think right now. I think the biggest limitation that you have set in front of yourself is yourself, that you can't dream big enough, that you think, hey man, I tried once and I failed, and so I'm never going to try again. And so all that to say, guys, man, I just want to be an example. I've said that over and over and over again, that I want to be an example, not an influencer. I don't want you to swipe up and buy my shoes. I want you to freaking get out of Instagram and believe in yourself, okay? And that really, I know that I'm being an example, not an influencer, number one, because my followers aren't going up, right? Like nothing's happening. My retweets, I post something on LinkedIn, it gets like 2 likes. I'm one of them. It's ridiculous. But I know I'm not an influencer and I'm an example because of what happened recently this weekend. So like my phone is off the hook all the time. Like I have a bazillion voicemails. I have a bazillion text messages. Everybody kind of knows. I kind of laugh about it. I promise I'm trying to get back to you. I'm just really busy. But this last week when I was driving my kids to school, I think on Wednesday, I got a phone call and I didn't recognize the number. I answered the phone real quick. I was just going to say, hey, I'm dropping my kids off. Can I call you back? And it was this lady, and she said, hey, Josh Levin, I heard that you volunteered at the Juvenile Detention Center for many, many years. I have some questions. And it really caught my attention. Like, I was like, ooh, I want to talk to this gal. And I was like, hey, but I'm dropping my kids off. This is a really special time. I probably shouldn't even have answered the phone, but can I call you back? She said, absolutely. So dropped my kids off. As soon as, got out of the school parking area, because I wasn't like on my phone while dropping the kids off, right? That's dangerous. I called her back. And she said, hey, man, I really heard that you had been volunteering at the Juvenile Detention Center for a long time and you had a lot of success. I've actually adopted a kid from that center and would like to ask you a bunch of questions. And for those that haven't been listening or haven't been following along or didn't listen to the early episodes, long before I even started Empowered Electric, the empowered people was on my mind. It was actually, what's funny is I actually started a podcast on Periscope before this called Common Story. I'm not going to go in depth of that, but it was actually like Common Story, had a logo and everything, bro. It was really funny. But anyways, up until before Empowered Electric, I would go on a weekly basis and I would speak to, it was something like 46 at-risk young adults, boys, and like 30 girls. They were ages, I think it was 11 to 17 that had crimes against person or against property and person, which meant, I'm stumbling with this because it's been a little while, but like I used to remember all this stuff. It was a lot of vandalism, it was a lot of drug use, and it was a lot of like prostitution, which sounds crazy to say 11-year-olds were locked up for prostitution, but that was the case. It wasn't violent crime, like it wasn't like, assault with a deadly weapon or something like that. So these were just some kids that like had made some like stupid choices, right? And I remember there's a long story about how I got to volunteer there, but I would go in every week on a Wednesday night, and I would speak an hour to the boys, and then I would speak an hour to the girls, because they ain't letting them commingle, you know what I mean? They're separate. And so I would speak to them, and it was so fun because I went there, and a lot of people had spoke to them before as someone above them, as someone that had all the answers, someone that, hey, let me tell you the 5 easy steps to not getting locked up again. I went there and spoke as one of them, someone that grew up in a household filled with poverty, addiction, and massive abuse, that knew what it was like when it hurt too much to hope, but was able to break out of the cycles of poverty, addiction, and self-defeat and make something of myself. And now, I never was the hero of the story. I wasn't like, young kids, you need to be like me. And one day I started journaling. Like I've been listening to so many people talk about their like morning routines, and they're like, well, every morning I wake up and I meditate for 30 minutes a day and do 500 push-ups and all this stuff. And it's like, you're more bull crap. You know how I know that you don't do that every morning? Because you're freaking, no, just stop. I just don't even want to go down that dark path. But like, I didn't go there as a hero. I went there and told them about, other people believing in me. I went there and told them what it was like to actually, even though I struggled in school, to actually do the homework. Like I talked as one of them, and one by one, those kids would raise their hand and they would resonate with what I had to say. And they would say things like, dude, you're one of us that got out. Please help us. And it was kind of that through those conversations. And when those kids would get out, I would meet with them at a Starbucks or something. And I remember meeting a kid that basically said like, hey man, if I don't find a job, I'm going to go back to running drugs because my sister's going to get evicted. My mom's going to get evicted and I can't have that happen. So I'm going to go back to drugs. And that's where the switch in my brain happened whenever I realized like I could start a for-profit company with a nonprofit heartbeat, that Empowered Electric could empower at-risk young adults to break those cycles. And so it was really an amazing time in my life. I volunteered there for 4 years. It was so much fun. I mean, I treasure it. And so this lady was calling me because she had adopted somehow one of the kids. He was a 17-year-old boy. She adopted him, and like a lot of those kids, man, they were acting wild. He was acting wild and crazy. And she called me and basically said, hey man, I need the 3 easy steps. Like I need you to tell me the like A, B, and C things that I need to do to get this kid to shape up. And I was like, well, tell me more. And she's like, well, he comes from a very abusive home where like, his mom would leave him for, weeks on end. When she would come home, she would freaking beat him. Like there was a lot of like, withholding food from this kid, a lot of abuse. There was just a lot of trauma. Right. And she's saying like, now, we've had him for, about 8 months and we're trying to get him motivated and he's super behind in school. He's probably not even going to graduate. He's really, really overweight because he just eats all the time. Like we can't get him to do anything, be motivated. Like he's really struggling. And I need to know like how to fix him. So tell me how to fix him. And I know as I say that, like you're able to hear this conversation and be like, oh my gosh, what does this woman think she's the savior? Like she's going to fix this kid like this and the other. Like don't throw the stones. Like this chick has adopted this kid. Like she's doing the best that she can. I'm very thankful for her. So please don't hear me like throwing shade at this girl. And if you do that, I would just ask you like, how many kids have you adopted? Okay, so like, just get off your high horse and give this chick the benefit of the doubt. Okay, like I did. I mean, I think she's trying to really admirable work. But as I was talking to her, I said, well, hey, I'm not an expert. I'm not a counselor. If anything, I'm just like one of those little punk kids, acting wild, just like them. But one thing I want to say to you is, no, everybody's different. Like everyone's unique. Everyone comes from a different place, a different story. They have different baggage. And so to think that you can read one book like The Child Called It and have every answer about, clinical depression and anxiety and abuse and how to handle things, it's going to be completely wrong. To think that you can just go to Dr. Phil or you can go to Tony Robbins or you can go to any one person and they're going to somehow give you all the magic advice so that you can solve this problem is absolutely crazy. I said, each and every kid is different and you got to like talk to them. And I remember it was so crazy to me, man. I'm going to say this story and it like breaks my heart. But I remember like getting confronted with this very early on. So like when I was volunteering, I'm talking to the boys and then I'm talking to the girls. And like I said, dude, a lot of the girls were like into prostitution, right? Like using their bodies, whether it was for drugs or lodging or money or whatever it was. And they got picked up and put in there. And there was one girl, she was probably like 15 or 16. I think she was 16 for sure. I remember her name, and she, like, after I got done talking, we'd do some Q&A, and she would always come up and like ask me some questions. And there'd be like a group of people. I mean, this is in a big open gym. This ain't like I'm alone with this girl. Okay, there's a million adults and counselors and volunteers and stuff like that. And she would come up and talk to me. And one time, like 3 weeks in, a month in, this older gentleman comes up and he goes, "Hey, watch out for that girl." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he goes like, she's real sexual. She's real bad news. And I remember he called her a harlot. A harlot. Like, what a weird word to call a 15 or 16-year-old girl, right? A harlot. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Well, so as I continued to volunteer there, we would also throw birthday parties. So not only would I go on Wednesday nights, but I would go on Sunday nights, and they would have like visiting times. And like a lot of times, dude, it was super sad. Like nobody would come in to see these kids. So there'd be like a group, there would be like a table where like some kids would have their parents show up, and then there would be like a long like cafeteria table, like, you know, where you'd go like in high school, and all these kids would be just sitting there like alone, just seeing if somebody's gonna come up and show up. And like most of the time they wouldn't. And like, so I would go in, I'd bring my boys, my 3 little boys. We would go in and bring like Little Debbie snack cakes, freaking Little Caesars pizza, like McDonald's double cheeseburgers. You roll up with 50 McDonald's double cheeseburgers to a juvenile detention center, bro, they'll listen to you talk about whatever. Like you got them captivated, right? And we'd play basketball and volleyball and stuff. And it was during one of these times, like I started talking to that girl and with other people around. And I came to find out that when that girl was 8 years old, her mom gave her away to a drug dealer to get her fix. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm kind of being a little vague because there are minors and kids that listen to this podcast. But the most unthinkable thing possible a mother could do to her daughter was done to her from the age of 8. So why do you think by the age of 15, she just thinks this is normal? Like, hey, you need food, sleep with a guy. Hey, you need lodging, do what he asks. Like, it's in her brain what she needs to do to survive. And like, she wasn't the only one in there. And like, as you would talk to these people, like there were some kids that were just like wild and crazy and doing crazy stuff. But there were other people that it was like they were shown an inappropriate way. And to group everyone together and just say like, oh, that's a harlot. That person is just doing this because they love it. is ridiculous. People are unique. What motivates and what motivates someone to do something, you have no idea unless you're willing to talk to them, to get to know them. And so I said to this girl, and I would say to you, do not treat people the same. Like we see it in the media, right? Like, I mean, I was about to say something. I mean, you hear it, right? Like you hear it personified. It's so disgusting. And whether it's racial or gender or whatever, it's like, stop listening to people, categorize people generally. Get to know people specifically and uniquely. Okay, so that's what I said to her. And it went on to say, you've got to talk to them. And you're never going to get to know somebody in one conversation. So another thing, so I said, there's no easy fix. There's no quick fix. Because she kept saying like, well, I just want to get him to like go to school. I just want him to pass this year. I just want him to get him fixed. I want him to change right now. And I remember saying to her like, man, when I think back to like why I didn't get into drugs, why I didn't get into alcohol, why I didn't start sleeping around and acting wild, it goes back a lot to like my 4th grade and my 5th grade teachers, right? Mrs. Burke and Mr. Pepic and the conversations they had with me. And what I said to her is, man, what's a hard pill to swallow and what you need to realize right now is you're not going to change this 17-year-old. Like this 17-year-old boy is exactly who he's going to be for the rest of 17 and probably 18 and maybe even 19. But the decisions that you're having right now, the choices that you're helping them make, the conversations that you're having, the investment that you're making into this kid right now is going to change the 20-year-old, the 21-year-old, the 22-year-old. Because just like gardening, right? You plant the seed, you got to water it, you got to like, I don't know, miracle grow it. We should have Bridget on here to talk about gardening. But you reap the fruit much later of what you do today. Almost nothing that you do today brings about results. Derek, we did 15 minutes of abs today. Your abs look any different? You look in the mirror. Did you lose any weight? Your pants a little looser? No. But like, will they be looser if we keep doing abs 15 minutes a day in 6 months? You best believe they will. What will they be like in a year, in 2 years? We know this to be true, and yet for some reason, when it hits hard things, we want to just snap our fingers. You want to just have that conversation with them. You want to lead them through a prayer. You want to like have them read the book that's going to get them to change overnight. And I'm just telling you, man, as a kid, like, bro, I grew up never feeling safe in my house. Up until recently, like this year, have I felt safe, like my house is my home. It's taken years to undo the pain and the toil and the like scarring that's happened, right? And so if you think, man, what do I just need to say? What is the booklet I need to take them through? It's not, man. It is conversations. It is many, many, many conversations that you're going to have with somebody. And not only that, and here's the last thing I said to her. So I said, hey, man, everybody's unique, so you got to figure out what motivates him. Okay. Then I stepped into, and you got to understand that to find out what motivates him and to steer him in the right direction, it is going to take many, many, many conversations. And the last thing I said is, and what you have to realize is that every time that you show up, it's a huge win. And the one time you don't, they're going to spiral back hard. And it was crazy to me how this was true. And I know that it seems wrong, but like there's so much, and we should have a psychologist on here, but there's so much pent up trauma, so much fight or flight adrenaline in somebody that I didn't realize until I did those birthday parties, how much it meant just to simply show up. See, on Wednesdays, I would show up and I would have a curriculum, right? Hey guys, open your Bibles to John chapter 2. We're talking about the resurrection. Well, that ain't in John chapter 2. I shouldn't be teaching the Bible. But I would go there with like a lesson and an agenda. And I would honestly want to motivate them. I would want to help. And I would be able to talk to them as one of them. And that had a good seeds. Like I'm planting seeds, right? But it was on Sundays when I would show up and just bullcrap with them and talk smack and freaking play Uno and stuff them in basketball. Like no mercy, right? Like I can't beat a 17. Dude, there were 17-year-old boys there dunking, but an 11-year-old, I can stuff an 11-year-old. I can beat any 11-year-old. But like it would be there. And I remember like, dude, one day in particular, like it was so fun to me, man, because like it was so fun to change my boys' perspective too. Cause there was like a lot of white, black, brown kids in this juvie hall, right? And just being able to bring my suburban white kids to this juvie hall and show them a different side. And it was so funny because like my kids for like the first like 6 months were like, these kids are so lucky. They just get to spend the night with each other and play and have a good time. And it was like after 6 months that I started to kind of talk to them like, hey man, they're not here by choice. It's not a slumber party. But like I would make my boys like serve them cake and like give them soda first and like teach them to help clean up and stuff. And it was just a lot of fun. But one kid in particular, man, for his birthday, we bought some Little Debbie snack cakes. I bought a movie. I can't remember the movie. Gosh darn it. It was like Three Ninjas Strike Back or something. It was some Mike and Ike's and some deodorant, dude. I'm talking Mike and Ike's deodorant, a PG movie, and some Little Debbie snack cakes. And the kid is like, yo, man, I just want to say thanks. Like this, thank you so much. And he's kind of making it awkward. I'm like, yo, bro, like stop thanking me. You thanked me 35 times. And he goes, I don't think you understand, dude. I'm turning 15 this year. No one's ever threw me a birthday party. And so it's a 15-year-old boy that's never had a special day, never had a day that was all about him. And some Little Debbie snack cakes and some Mike and Ike's like made this kid's day the best ever. And so I said to them like, hey man, showing up and building that trust is so insanely important, because I would hear them talk about, man, my aunt said she was going to show up and she didn't. I must not be worth their time. You know, my grandma said this week she was going to come and she didn't. And you would see them spiral, because I'd see them on a weekly basis. And some weeks, man, they'd be ready to listen. Hey, Josh, how's it going? Some weeks they're like, you know what I mean? Like they want nothing to do with me because they had been let down so hard. And so what seems like so small to you, like some Mike and Ike's and a PG movie, maybe it's like playing video games. And that's what I said to this girl. I was like, hey, maybe you need to play Fortnite with him. Maybe you need to stop trying to get him to do his homework all the time, and maybe you need to just engage with him. He's into Dragon Ball Z and freaking Pokemon and like mumble rappers. I don't know what he's into, but like talk to him, right? You know, like, hey, I'm not dissing mumble rappers. I'm just saying like meeting them where they're at and showing up consistently, not because you're trying to check a box on your to-do list, because you actually care. And the thing is like as I showed up and played basketball with them, as I showed up, that's when they would start to get real with me. See, on Wednesdays, they would listen to me talk, but when they would start really engaging would be on those Sunday nights during birthday parties, which were so minute to me. Like they meant nothing, but to them, it meant the world. And so I told that girl, so what did I tell her? I told her, everyone's unique. I said, there's no freaking quick fix. And I said, you got to continue to show up. And if you can't right now twist it in your brain, whether it's like how you're volunteering at a church, you're thinking about fostering kids, or it's like how to get a promotion, those things all still apply. Like, how do you get promoted? You understand that every single person is unique. Every situation is unique. Every customer is unique. Every project is unique. And you don't go in there with some dumb, savior complex, like you can just solve every problem the exact same way you've done it every single time. People want to be treated like they matter. So even like, like I'm just saying, like a project, like, hey, what's your goal with your website? As I'm designing your website, like what is it that you want people to, when they type in www.derek.com, what do they experience? Like having that connection with them is super important. Don't treat them like a straw man. Don't treat them like what you heard they were on the news and on the media. Treat them like a person and have conversations. Not one, not two, not three, a lot. And a conversation requires you to talk and you to listen. I just heard this like Taoist, I don't even know what Taoism is, but it was like some proverb. And it said like, whenever you speak, all that you hear is what you already know. But it's when you truly listen that you can learn. Because and I mean, that just makes sense to me, right? And the last thing is showing up over and over and over again. It might seem so small to you, but it could be such a big deal. It could be the only time this person has ever felt like everyone sang them happy birthday, got them a freaking present, made the day about them. Think about how you can do that, because like, man, you're doing a worthwhile cause. If you're trying to build a business, if you're trying to like make your community better, if you're running for city council, whatever it is you're doing, man, you're doing a good work. And I just hope, man, that as you listen to this podcast each and every week, you realize that, man, the worst thing that you can do is sit around like you know everything, or sit around like it's not worth it. And, you know, dude, I'm gonna say something that some people might not like, but, you know, like I just reread, crap, I just went freaking blank. The Lorax. I just reread the Lorax. And if you don't know the story, it's a Dr. Seuss book, and it's not one of the ones that say controversial things. The Lorax is about this dude that like chops down all these trees because he only sees that as he chops down these trees, he can make these dope sweaters. And this guy writes a sign, the Lorax writes a sign that says unless. And the guy doesn't know what unless means until the very end of the book. And he says, I now realize that what the Lorax was telling me is that unless someone like you cares an awful lot, nothing's going to change. And I hope that whether it's by listening to this podcast or by going out and trying and falling on your freaking face, that you start living a life realizing that unless someone like you cares an awful lot, nothing in this world is going to change.